How do I know this turn is in my favor? Secondly, there are signs in the sojourn. Say signs in the sojourn. There's signs in the sojourn. Well, Matthew, what's the first sign? The first sign is you have to reassess your priorities in a lifeless situation. Reassess your priorities in a lifeless situation. Look at verse 2. When you have departed from me today, you will find two men by Rachel's tomb in the territory of Benjamin at Zilzah. And they will say to you, the donkeys which you went to look for have been found, and now your father has ceased caring about the donkeys and is worrying about you, saying, what shall I do about my son? Now, the reason why Samuel tells Saul to go to the tomb of Rachel is because he had to reassess some things in his life. He had to reassess some things. Saul had to change what he was chasing at the tomb. And sometimes God has to put us in some lifeless situations so that we can reassess some of our priorities. When some of your friendships are dying, when some of your relationships are dying, when that job is not satisfying like it was, when that house has become too big for you, when things are dying all around you, God says this is where you have to reassess your priorities. Now, it was at the tomb of Rachel that Saul had to say, you know what, I'm going to stop chasing my father's donkeys and I'm going to go after what God has called for me to do. Now let me park parenthetically and propose here, we have to stop chasing other people's donkeys. Stop chasing other people's donkeys. I know their donkeys look good. I know they're riding on a nice donkey. I know they're with it, but you have to stop chasing other people's donkeys. You have to stop coveting what other people have. In fact, you need to understand that the reason why Saul went there was because God wanted Saul to know that you need to stop chasing other donkeys because I want to give you yours on your own. Have to stop chasing other people's donkeys. Now watch this. This is so interesting because it was at the tomb of Rachel. This is very significant because Rachel died giving birth to Benjamin. And Saul is the seed of Benjamin. In other words, God and Samuel wanted Saul to know that the reason why you're here is not because of what you've done. It's not because of your own merit. It's not because of your own grace, but it's because of the people who have died before you. So don't get the big head because you think you're doing it on your own. Don't get the big head because you think you in this, because you doing this because of your degrees. It's because of what you've done. It's because of who you know, your contacts, your network. No, God is saying it's because of the people that have gone before you. It's the people who have died giving birth to your dreams, died giving birth to your purpose, died giving birth to your destiny. You need to thank God for the people who have paved the way for you. You need to be able every now and then to thank God for the people who have died giving birth to who you are. Not only are the signs of the sojourn that you need to reassess your priorities in a lifeless situation, but secondly, God will give you favor in dry places. God will give you favor in dry places. Look at verse 3. Favor dry places. Then you shall go on forward from there and come to the terebinth tree of Tabor. There 3 men going up to God at Bethel will meet you. One carrying 3 goats, another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a wineskin. He's saying, now this is very interesting because something else jumped out at me. Not only did Rachel's tomb jump out at me, but it was also the terebinth tree. Why did God send Saul to the terebinth tree? Now, the terebinth tree is very significant in the biblical text. It's very significant in the biblical text. Now, some scholars and anthropologists suggest that there are multi terebinth trees. There are different types of terebinth trees. You have the Terebinthus atlantica, you have the Palestinae terebinthus, you have all of these trees, but scholars and researchers would suggest that this particular tree was the Pistachia atlantica. It was the Pistachia atlantica, which grew over in Syria and in Lebanon and Israel. It was indigenous to the Mediterranean region. And so they suggest that it was because of the terebinth tree that this is the one. Now, this is very significant because you have to understand that the Pistachia atlantica grew in dry places. And not only was it a mighty tree, not only was it used for medicinal purposes, but it grew in dry places. I sent Samuel a text last night. I said, Sam, why in the world did you send him to the terebinth tree? He said, because I wanted him to know that no matter what he came up against, he could still grow in dry places. Is there anybody who could testify? You've been in some environments that wasn't conducive to growth. You've been in some atmospheres that wasn't conducive to growth, but God still allowed you to grow. He still allowed you to prosper. He still let you get up the ladder when everybody wanted to keep you down and nobody wanted to give you that raise. God said, I'm going to do it in spite of the people. I'm going to do it when there was a glass ceiling over your head and you couldn't figure out why you couldn't get up. God says, I'm going to favor you in dry places. Is there anybody in here who's been in some dry places before? I'm talking about the type of dry places where you couldn't sleep at night. I'm talking about the dry places when you looked at your bank account, it was in the red. I'm talking about the dry places that you didn't even want to answer your phone if it wasn't 404 and 770. I'm talking about the dry places when it seemed like things wasn't working in your favor. Dry places. Say dry places, dry places. It's been in some dry places.